Hi everyone, welcome to the weekly reading for the collective. This is for September 11th through 17th. First of all, my cat is in the room, so I do want to apologize if you hear any interference. She's a little bit energetic right now, I guess I could say. All right, guys, I'm going to jump right in. Enough with the small talk in the beginning. I'm using the same 4 decks that I usually use, and I think I mixed them up. I think they're in a different order here. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and any questions, comments, or concerns, please put them down below. Any feedback, just be kind as well, okay? And also, before I jump into this, last week was a doozy, right? A lot of you guys reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, this isn't the greatest week, and kind of, saw that foreshadowing. I saw our egos kind of involved a little bit, kind of holding us back, but I could, it's almost like we were fighting for alignment. So I am more confident about this week, but let's just see what we have in store for us, okay? So what do we need this week? Mother Earth, feel loved and comforted. Okay, so I definitely do feel like this feeling of needing to find comfort. It's not necessarily, so sometimes Mother Earth is about needing to be in nature. I'm actually not getting this. I call it an intuitive card reading for a reason, because I do use my intuition, obviously, with my readings. And so basically, oh my gosh, my cat, you guys don't see it, but she's being a little bit nosy, and she's all over my decks right now. Anyway, I don't feel that for this card. So what I'm feeling is almost like Spirit is saying, like comfort food, like something that brings you comfort. And guys, I know being in the comfort zone is usually kind of like a negative thing, but I really do believe everything kind of has like a positive and a negative to it. And so this is kind of coming through positively in the way of like finding comfort in any way that you know how. What brings you safety, what makes you feel comforted. Like, we're going to need that this week. And so Spirit is saying, like, yeah, it's okay to really kind of go towards those things. Obviously, like if it's an addiction or something like really that pulls you back, or is not really healthy for you, is not, I'm not condoning that, and Spirit's not condoning that. That's not really what's going on here. But I do just feel this feeling that we're going to feel, the word nostalgia comes up as well a little bit with this, where like we may need to go, like, I don't know, maybe be around like the people in our lives that make us feel comforted, and that might be like people from our past or something like that. So if you're being pulled to do that, in which I feel like you guys would, and like basically, sorry, I don't know if you saw my cat's tail in the in the frame there, but oh my god, cats are so cute. Sorry guys. All right, looks like she's settling down in the corner there. Okay, so anyway, it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just kind of the energy that I'm picking up here. So if you guys are feeling more called towards something that makes you feel more comfortable, makes you feel more comfort, safety, that kind of thing, or even, it says feel loved, go in that direction, okay? All right, action needed. So this is more about taking action. What do we need more action on? Liberator, freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs, releasing negative thought patterns. Okay, so freedom, basically Liberator is just, fighting freedom. And so action needed, we need to feel more free, okay? So we need to do things that make us feel more free. So if you're definitely feeling trapped lately in, could be anything, in a relationship, a job, a location, your environment, your situation, anything along those lines. Oh my God, my cat is so cute. I'm sorry guys, I'm getting distracted. All right, back to this, is what we should be going for, okay? Because this, I almost feel like this will naturally kind of happen, this feeling of like wanting to feel comfort, wanting to feel love, wanting to feel safety, but we really need to take action on feeling more free. So I definitely do feel like there's a decision that maybe we need to make this week that really helps us kind of get there and get into that energy, okay? All right, let's see what kind of issues are we going to be having. Okay, Observer. I think we actually had this in the surprise slot last week, but as you guys know, Observer is really more about perceiving and being kind of like on the outside looking in. So to me, it being in the issue, sorry, I'm trying to get this just right, being in the issue slot this week, it feels like to me we're like having issues not being involved in something, right? And so because the Observer is the outside looking in, not interfering or not, trying to put our 2 cents into something, that's going to be kind of an issue. And I actually feel, sometimes I feel it's a small minor issue or a major issue. I'm feeling like it's a little bit of a major issue. So we're definitely going to have to test ourselves to make sure that we don't, another example is like giving advice that maybe people didn't ask for, butting into an argument that, two people are having, it has nothing to do with us, like that kind of thing. So it's really about checking ourselves. So it's going to be really, really hard not to get involved in something this week. And this could manifest very differently for a lot of you guys, but I feel like it's like Spirit is almost like showing me like somebody like biting their tongue, like wanting to say something, but like refraining themselves. So I definitely do feel like there's some type of discipline that needs to be adhered to, and some willpower that's kind of like needed, and just practicing being the observer instead of like being involved in the situation. So look out for a situation like that and try, again, because it's under issue, it's going to be a little bit challenging, and I'm very excited to see what the challenge says, but just keep that in mind. Surprise, power of joy. Yes. Oh my God, what a great, wonderful card to get. I was getting a little, scared. So far, so good, right? Like I'm already feeling the energy a lot better this week. And so the surprise is power of joy, which to me, coming from a week that we just had, to me, being more joyful and being happy this week is kind of a surprise, because it's such a short amount of time. The energy, yes, energy changes all the time. You're not who you were, 5 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, like that kind of thing. But it doesn't change too much. So when the energy changes pretty starkly, very contrasting, like it seems like it is, it's just kind of a surprise. So that doesn't surprise me that actually, that we're surprised by our joy, if that makes sense. How many times can I say surprise? But it looks like it's going to be a pretty great week. I'm excited to see what the rest of the reading says here. Challenge. Okay, we have protection, guardian, drop your shield. Okay, so challenge is about boundaries. Makes sense with the issue, right? I said I was very curious about what the challenge is. They kind of go together. So the challenge is, sometimes this is about like putting your guard up, but I definitely do feel like, yeah, it could be maybe for some of us, where where to put our guard up, where not to put our guard up, but walls and boundaries are a little bit different. Boundaries kind of come from love, so it feels more loving. So I definitely do feel like it's our boundaries are definitely going to be tested this week, and we have to put more up. And for me, it feels like you guys are just like having a hard time with that, of setting boundaries or communicating your boundaries and that kind of thing. I actually feel this issue here is a lot bigger if we're talking major / versus minor here with the challenge. I feel like that's more of a minor. This is more of a major. Okay, we're gonna have more of a hard time not butting into something that we shouldn't butt ourselves into, basically. So that feels like the bigger challenge or issue. Okay. Okay, focus. What should we focus on? Okay, we have the Fool, but it came in shadow, using humor to wound rather than liberate, denial of your emotional truth. Okay, guys, I like that it says using humor to wound rather than liberate. Okay, so this almost feels like, I'm gonna give you guys a metaphor. I don't know if that's the right word, metaphor, but basically, like roasting somebody. Like some people does it have it has a light and a shadow to me, because it's kind of like, if it's in good fun and the intentions behind it wasn't good fun, and it wasn't to, the intentions weren't to be malicious, it's not like you're putting down people that are already down. Roasting is really supposed to be a punch, what is it? Yeah, punch up, not a punch down. Right. And so it's kind of like you go after, it's not like you're kicking people when they're down. Right. And so because that would be the shadow. And so the Fool coming in the shadow is kind of like, and maybe some of you guys can actually resonate more with this, is like, you may have a friend that is really like a big jokester, and, they make fun of you, but it's all in like good fun, like roasting basically, right? But then you have like a friend or two that maybe doesn't have your best interest in mind and really like secretly is jealous of you, envious of you, that kind of thing. And then their jabs hit a little bit different, right? Their jokes hit a little bit different. That's the difference between shadow and the light. And so this is coming in the shadow. So this is really about like focusing on how you're kind of doing this, where maybe you're making jokes, but they're not necessarily landing, or they're coming from like that place, maybe they're coming from jealousy, maybe they're coming from envy, maybe they're coming from your own discomfort or something along those lines. So, but it could also be, it does feel more like ourselves, like checking ourselves, like where should we focus on? I always get that feeling because we're kind of next to the reflect card, and that kind of gives off that energy of like looking at ourselves, being more introspective. But I mean, it could be other people too. So watch out for people that are in the full, archetype, but they're doing it, coming from a place of the shadow fool, basically. So, in that case, we have the boundaries card, right? And so you would have to put up boundaries with that, right? I had an incident like that maybe like 10 years ago where, I just didn't want this person in my, I was going through a hard time. And so, you can kind of feel the energy, you can feel the difference, and really just look at the intentions, right? I feel like, intentions is like a really big thing. If you guys follow me here on YouTube, I'm getting a lot of intentional type daily cards. I pull a card daily. So, it really is all about the intentions behind it. But yeah, so focus on that, and I feel like that's going to be a big part of the week, honestly. Okay, what do we need to reflect on here? Imagine. Okay, so yeah, very reflective type card. Very imagine is really about visualizing, right? And so this is about visualizing the life that you want to lead, visualizing what you want to do next, visualizing next year, right? I think for the monthly, if I remember correctly, that was kind of what this is about, which makes sense because we're in the last quarter of the year basically, and we need to start thinking about, setting ourselves up for next year for success. So it makes sense there. What do you want to visualize? What do you want? What do you desire? What do you, imagine in your mind? Basically manifesting. What do you want to manifest, going forward? That kind of stuff. So it makes sense that you would reflect there. Come out of the closet. This is always about being, this is under responsibility. So this is about being authentic. I actually think we got this in the same slot not too long ago, maybe like a few weeks back, if I remember correctly. So your only responsibility is to be true to yourself, authentic to yourself, and really taking off that mask, right? And just being who you truly are, right? So there might be instances this week where you guys feel like you're, deciding not to hide yourself. Like maybe if you go on a date, for example, you decide to, be honest about something or not hide and, just go into it like more authentically or something like that. But it being under responsibilities, the spirit is saying like this will serve you this week. Obviously being authentic always serves you, but it will especially serve you this week. Money, finances, career, I lumped them all together. Great teacher, learn from spiritual experiences. Amazing. Okay, so this is another card of, because I remember from last week, because of all this kind of like chaotic energy like kind of happening, I remember money, finances, and career was the one thing we really didn't have to worry about. That wasn't like a big highlight of the week or something like huge of the week. Same here, because this is a very like flow card where it's just like, don't worry about it. And the fact that it's learn from spiritual experiences, I definitely do feel like this points to like lessons that you've learned are now going to serve you in areas of money, finances, and career. Pretty broad, but it's another type of energy like last week where it's like you don't have to worry too much about money, career, and finances. Money and finances are basically the same thing, right? But there's something here about learning from your past experiences and bringing them into it and it being positive, if that makes sense. So basically, what I'm trying to say is it's not a highlight of the week again. Okay, so there's all these other things that are really needed. It looks like your personal life is definitely more highlighted this week, but just think of it as like things that you've learned. You can take it now into your career, money, and finances, and it'll be lucrative, basically, or you'll be fine, basically. Let me see if I can think of an example. Let me think. I can't, oh my gosh, guys, I cannot think of one on the spot. I'm so sorry. To me, it just feels like, so maybe you, so maybe you run a spiritual business and you've made mistakes in the past, you've learned from them, now you're implementing them or correcting them, and that's going to be lucrative for you. That's the best example, guys. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm doing my best over here, but so that would be like something like that, especially because it's kind of linked to like more of a, I mean, I feel like all lessons are spiritual. That's what they are, right? Because like the whole point of being on earth is that, doing this earth school is to really like learn and transcend. So it's, all lessons are spiritual to me. But all right, I think I tried to explain it as much as I possibly could, but I'm sure you guys can think of better examples. And when you do, put it down below. I'd love to hear it. Okay, change, hero, heroine, in the light, passion for journey and personal empowerment. Awesome. Okay, so this to me is the hero, being, the hero of your own life, stepping up, personal empowerment, that kind of thing. And so that's under change, which makes me super happy. Weeks ago, we had a reading that was huge on finding our personal power. Feels like that, but feels a little bit less subtle. And it's always good when we feel like makes sense coming from a week that we coming from. Sometimes we might, we were kind of like egoic last week a little bit, letting our egos get in our own way. And sometimes that equates to maybe some victim mentality kind of going on. So we're definitely taking control of our lives. We're, kicking that to the curb, the victim mentality, and getting more into an empowered place. And so that's the change. And nothing makes me happier than hearing that. So amazing. So you guys are definitely going to feel a shift in the energy. Thank God that week is over. The week is over, right? Friends, fork in the road. Okay, so this is talking about, going one way or going the other. So I definitely do feel like almost like it's a journey. Like you can go forward, but you can only take certain people with you. You can take, path A, but you'll have to leave people on path B away, behind. So this is really about not necessarily choosing two paths, but kind of like going one way and people not coming with you, basically. So there are some clues here about this. I see it with the Fool. I gave examples that like there are sometimes people in your life that, are roasting for a good reason, and some, and people that have not so great intentions, right? So that is a clue. Okay. So maybe you'll have to leave these people behind. Boundaries talk up there. You might have to leave people behind. Okay. Issue, we have the observer, not getting into other people's business, kind of removing yourself from the situation. So I definitely do feel like there's some clues in here that Spirit is telling us that, we may be on different paths, basically, from the people that are in our lives, our friends that are in our lives. So you might see you going in a different direction, or at least planning to go in a different direction when it comes to the people in your life. So watch out for that for sure. Romantic connection. We have trust. Okay, so lessons in trust this week could go all types of ways. This could be about trusting that everything is going to work out in your relationship. This could be about trusting more in people and going farther in your relationship. Or, maybe you might be dating and, you do have a lot of trust issues, but maybe you meet somebody this week that really kind of helps you feel more safe, right? And loved. Okay. So going back to this one here. So, and that's what we need. And so I'm glad to hear that. It's kind of, I said it earlier, it feels like that card is more about like it naturally happening. So it could be somebody in our life in a romantic way that's kind of helping us get there. Right. So yeah, definitely themes of trust in our romantic connections this week for sure. Important. Mountains, stand your ground. Okay, so this is really about not being stubborn necessarily, even though I would say that would be the shadow of the stand your ground of the mountains. But it's really about like making sure your opinion is not swayed by others. Make sure that people aren't manipulating you or convincing you, or telling you your opinion is wrong or your viewpoint is wrong or something like that, yeah, I guess it could, you could look at it as like being stubborn. But Spirit is saying like it's important that you stand up for what you believe in, and it's important that you don't budge, right? Which happens a lot, by the way, with empaths. Sometimes so when I talk about empaths, to try to like give a visualization or an example of like what it's like to be an empath, I either use the sponge theory, or example, basically being like you absorb everything, you absorb energy like a sponge, or I use the leaf analogy, because if you don't have an anchor, if you're not grounded, which most empaths aren't, you can find yourself blowing all over the place like the wind, okay? And we're coming up to autumn, okay? So it's symbolism to me. And you could be swayed all over the place, right? And sometimes it's like, and I find this a lot of times with empaths, that they do tend to get along with a lot of different types of people. And so anytime they're like with a certain group of people, they kind of like blend into and morph into those people, kind of like take on their personality traits, their jargon, like things like that. And then end up like living somebody else's life, or just like kind of being, and when they're alone, and this is why they, part of the reason why they need some alone time is so that they can anchor themselves into their higher self of who they really are from like a soul level. And so that's what this kind of means to me. At least that's how I'm interpreting it, is like, make sure that we have that anchor. So yes, even though we have no cards of like, breathe, take a nap, like all of those cards are about pausing and like taking a break, spending time alone. Hermit is another one. So there's a lot of different cards like that in here. We haven't gotten one yet. I know we have only, we have two more cards to go, but this means we might have to spend some time alone to become that anchor, right? And to really, detach from everything and that kind of thing. If you can have strong boundaries, that's really helpful for not only the leaf, but the sponge. Boundaries are great for anybody as well. Like, you don't have to be an empath to have, to benefit from boundaries. But I think it's really, really important that we do protect our energy in that way and protect ourselves and stand our ground, right? And there's a reason it's coming under important. So hopefully that's helpful to you guys. Health and wellness. We have shapeshifter. Okay, speaking of being the leaf, right? Speaking of the leaf, we have shapeshifter, which is skill at navigating through different levels of consciousness, ability to see the potential in everything. It came in through the light. To me, obviously, it's a more positive attribute this week, which means being adaptable, being flexible, and that's really a positive thing, right? Not so much what I was talking about here. So with health and wellness, if you're on a health journey or trying to figure out a health issue, being open to new information, being open to being adaptable, flexible, in your healing protocol, that kind of thing would be helpful. If it's an emotional journey, it would be good to just be adaptable in general to what's the word? God, guys, I'm having a not so great brain day. Just basically being open and able to kind of shift your perspective, or be open to different perspectives or different ways of doing things when it comes to health, health, fitness, emotional well-being, et cetera, okay? All right. Overall outcome. Guys, we're almost done. Oh my gosh, look at that. It went by so fast. Time to go. Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, so we actually, I know this is the start for September 11th, for the week of September 11th, but we did just have the portal over the weekend, okay? We had the 9/9 portal, which is about endings, which makes a lot of sense for last week's reading, but so the 9, I know there's no 9 on this card, but it does give the vibration, the energy of the 9, which is, and there's not too much 9 on the board. I only see up here 49. But it's still, that energy, the portal is still, I would say like 9 days before, 9 days after, it's still pretty much like open, and there's this energy of ending. Also, too, because we're going into a new season, fall is coming up, like that kind of thing. The new year is coming up, so there's a lot of different ways that Spirit is asking us, like the timing aligns for like letting go and releasing things, surrendering to things. So to me, even though I feel like for this week, I will say this right now, it feels light years better. I would say that the scariest thing about this reading, or the most chaotic, is this issue here with like not butting into, I don't know if butting is the right word, but not, challenges and issues with being the observer. It's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel, even though I called it major, but it just feels like a major in willpower and resistance, basically. But I definitely do feel like obviously the week is better, the energy is better, but the time to go kind of symbolizes like the surrender part of it, but also, kind of like Spirit is kind of saying like we're letting things go with grace, and we're surrendering to things with more grace and with more ease. But it is about endings, even though there's no flat out, straight up type of cards in here that are necessarily pointing to that. Does that make sense, guys? Did I just confuse you all? But like it just feels like there's more like subtle surrender, more graceful surrender, and you're allowing things to flow more. Because I will say, what was so intense and chaotic about last week was like a lot of like conflicting type energy. Like because I remember that first card was really about things were flowing, and then all of a sudden they weren't. And then things were flowing, and then all of a sudden they weren't. So there was like a lot of like jerk back behavior. Like, I don't even know if that's a phrase, but there was like a lot of like very conflicting behavior. This seems like across the board, like things feel like they're actually flowing. But it's probably because our energy has surrendered to it. So I think that's like a better way to kind of put it, is like we kind of like, all right, let go, let God, that kind of thing. So, okay. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful to you. Definitely a better week this week. I'm excited about it. So, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will definitely see you for the next week. And again, leave any comments, questions, concerns, feedback, and let me know if it resonates with you down below. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.